Welcome. My name is Devin. I am the Associate Director here at Yale Center Beijing. Normally based in New Haven, but very lucky that I'm able to be here in Beijing to welcome our guests today. For those of you guys that have never been to Yale Center Beijing, this is now our 10th year in operation, and our goal is to showcase all the many things that happen at Yale and bring a piece of that here into China. So everything from music to drama to science to art history, you name it, we do it. And so we're very happy to have another edition of Sean hosting a fun music activity here. I think it's very interesting that, at Yale, we try to bring knowledge for the good of humanity, and we try to disseminate it to the public. And I think in many ways that's very similar to what TwoSet does, where they take something more ivory towerish with classical music and try to disseminate it out to the general public. And so I think it's very fitting that they are here. Another fun piece of, I guess, trivia is they have been to Yale twice. Both times as guests of Timothy Dwight College, one of the residential colleges at Yale, where they did performance and talk. I happen to be a fellow and a former student at Timothy Dwight College. And so I think it's quite 缘分 that I get to open this today. And so I'm very happy and excited that they are here at Yale for the third time. And kind of still doing a TD activity. So, so anyway, you're not here for me. So I'm going to turn it over to Sean. Sean Moore is Yale School of Music alumni from 2013, I believe. Also a amazing violinist, as well as has incredible Chinese. So I'm not going to embarrass myself by speaking Chinese in front of him because he has better Chinese than I do. So without further ado, Sean, why don't you get us started?
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? TwoSet Violin, yeah. So I want to first just say a few words also about the organization of this wonderful event. Thank you, first of all, to the Yale Center. It's always fun to organize here, and to SUMS Music Society, who are responsible for organizing this tour that they're on, that's bringing them here to Beijing. And I want also to say, sorry, got my notes. I'm a little nervous too, actually. Everyone's here is a violinist? No? We can tell viola jokes? No?
We can always tell viola jokes.
I want to first, because we're going to be live streaming this whole event, all right? So I'm going to say a few things in Chinese, and then we'll go in English. 所以先因为有一些朋友在直播间正在看，所以想先说一下，我们这个今天的活动呢，会用英文，不用中文，用英文进行。但是如果有疑问，你可以在这个留言区那边说一下，我们总结，然后有个问答环节，那时候我们可以总结一下一些。
This Chinese better than ours.
I think my Chinese might be better than my English at this point. no. 所以到时候问答环节我们可以翻译你的问题让他们回答一下。Yeah. So, without any further ado, let's get a warm round of applause again for TwoSet Violin, 双琴侠. Yeah. So, I want to start with, since this is an academic setting and, a very serious discussion about music, classical music in today's world, I feel like, legacy organizations have had such a difficult time bringing the younger generation into the concert hall, listening to music. So I feel like the powers that be in the classical world should give you both like an honorary degree or something. You've brought so many younger people. You've brought them to classical music and showed them, it is not this dry, stuffy thing with a bow tie, it can't be fun on stage. And via that, really shown them the wonderful world that it can describe for us, So I thought I'd start by just asking you a little bit about how your journey got started with the channel. How did this all begin? What were you thinking then? Did you think you would get this far?
Well, I mean, I think, 20 years ago, we had this master plan already all laid out. We're like, we're, classical music, we're going to disseminate it into the public, starting with this video posted in 20. No, we did. Honestly, I think when we first started, we're just having fun. It was around 10 years ago, or 11, and it was towards the end of our university degree. So we're kind of at that point where we had to think about,
Getting a job?
yeah, exactly. Do you want to get a job, or do you want to, delay that and maybe do some more studying? And I think at the time, with the different options we have seeing, it was also around the time that I think Oppa Gangnam Style was the first YouTube video to hit 1 billion views. And so I think we were having a discussion, and we thought it would just be funny, like just try, because we're kind of like messing around as well. Just why don't we try making some fun videos about violin and see where that takes us? And I remember for the first year, it took us like nowhere. I mean, we got maybe like 100 views on all our videos from our friends and family, which is super supportive of. But I think, about 1 year in, we hit our first viral video. It was actually a short that we posted on Facebook. But I think to say that we kind of planned ahead of time how we were going to go about doing this, I think that's giving ourselves way too much credit. We didn't really know. But what we did learn in this process, actually, we were very surprised, is that we discovered, because our shorts videos were kind of just goofing around. And also at the time where, like you said, classical music still had it still does today, like a very traditional, prestigious reputation. And this idea that every time you perform on stage, it had to be perfect. You practice so much behind the scenes, so you present that perfect top 1% performance that you can give. And I think that's a beautiful thing. But, with that comes this idea of like, I remember my teacher being like, oh, there was this one musician that played 2 notes out of tune and he was never invited back to the city to perform for 10 years. And so it's kind of scary, right? But then when we made these videos, we were kind of goofing around. We played out of tune. We didn't make the best sounds. But we were really surprised that there was this big online community of people that related. And I think that was this cool discovery. Also, in a way, like a sigh of relief, like, wow, there's so many people around this world that think the same way. They're going through the same journey and they feel the same things that we do. And so even from the beginning, it's always felt like we were just really cool and lucky to stumble upon this community. And it was always about kind of sharing. And then as we shared amongst our community, I think more and more people would kind of come in and be like, oh, so that's what it's like to be a musician. I mean, we see the perfect stuff on stage, but oh, this is what it's like in a practice room when you practice the same shift 20 times and you can't get in tune, that kind of feeling, right? And I think, yeah, that's kind of been what we've really been passionate about doing, just kind of sharing with the world a different side of classical music to, I guess, invite people in. I mean, there are already a lot of institutions that educate classical music very well from like a theoretical perspective, but kind of more introducing everyone into I guess, the family and the community and be like, this is what it's like. And we are all human at the end of the day. Many of us do turn on Spotify and there's, pop music there as well. Ooh, it's not like we just listen necessarily. I mean, I know Brett doesn't listen to pop music, but yeah.
Is that a dirty secret, or is that?
I mean, people know he's pretty illiterate.
I listen to it. It's just playing
Your
grandpa.
grandpa,
Yeah, I'm a
yeah.
grandpa. Yeah, I mean, I listen to it. But I don't actively go and turn it on.
Yeah.
So does that mean, so your process, is it really kind of just, train of thought, like what you're working on at the time, or, how did you find it? Or do you have a systematic process, or is it kind of just, whatever you happen to be doing at the time, you find a way to share the aspects that you do in your videos?
And I think a lot of it's just drawn from real life experiences. And with that, you can kind of come up with a lot of ideas. And in fact, we always talk about this kind of endless ideas. It's actually the filtering of ideas that's important as well, and the preparation of the ideas. So with kind of, yeah, when we first made these videos, it was the same. Like I thought we were weird, and then when the videos got views, we realized there are a lot of weird people out there too that will watch it. I'm like, oh, cool. We're not the only ones. But it's kind of, it was a nice feeling, and the process was just think about like, okay, this is kind of what works is for us is drawing out real life experiences. What other experiences do we have? Can we think about that we could show online and relate to more people? Yeah.
Are you fans of some like classical comedy folks like Victor Borge or?
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
I saw some of his videos. Honestly, I didn't discover him until later, and I was like, no way. I wish I saw this earlier. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, he's a I guess what in the 40s maybe. Yeah, from I think was it Finland maybe originally. Anyway, he's emigrated to the U.S. This if you haven't seen his videos, you should check them out. Pianist and does amazing musical comedy. So they're unwittingly at the time continuing a fine tradition of musical comedy. Yeah. So that's really interesting. I mean, I'm curious. Like, I love the videos. You know, the themes like the Ling Ling, or the or 40 hours a day, right? You know, I think we can all, any of us in the audience who have learned an instrument or are learning an instrument, can really like empathize, right? When we have stories like that. So, how do you think about music education or music in general for folks, even if they're not going to make a career out of it? Because we all went through that as children, and now you've managed to make a wonderful career. But are there things about learning music that you might want to share in general, like thoughts about how it can enrich your life?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk a bit about that. So I think, I mean, specifically classical music, because apparently I don't listen to pop, but I think with classical music, it's of course, besides, the beauty it brings, the history and all that stuff, through practicing, we learn a lot of values, actually. So basic values such as hard work and kind of going on stage and having the courage to do things, even though you make a mistake, it's okay. I feel like that going through that phase, especially in our teenage years, was really, really important. It also taught us a lot of things like, you hear these stories like perseverance and things like, it's actually true, because classical music is not something that comes by that easily. We can't just pick up the violin and play a concerto within a week. You literally have to spend years. And it's also a test of patience. And that's something we've also learned along the way. It's kind of stumbled across that these are the values that classical music brings that we take to our daily lives, and we choose how to live our life as well.
They're so eloquent.
Wise words.
It's not a YouTube video.
So jumping a little more to contemporary stuff. This is we were talking backstage. This is your second time to China, or
That's our first tour here.
first time
But
for
with-
TwoSet as a tour?
Yes.
Yeah, first time for TwoSet as a tour. So I'm really curious, and I'm sure our audience would love to hear about how things have gone. You've already had 2 concerts in Guangzhou and Shanghai.
Yeah.
And yeah, how was it?
Yeah, it was really good. Brett learned some Shanghainese and some Cantonese.
what Shanghainese did you learn? What?
You still remember?
Can I say it here?
来呀来呀
It's like "脑子瓦塔了." I think, yeah, I think it means like your brain is broken or something. And can I just say, to be fair, like throughout the whole show, my mind was on trying to memorize that line. And actually, halfway through the show, I forgot the line. And when we went to get changed, I asked Eddie, and I was like, Eddie, what was the line again? It's like, no. He's like, yeah, it's very stressful. I got it out eventually, yeah.
That's great. I wish I could see that. So classical music in China, I mean, I've been here now 10 years, and I feel like it's really developing very quickly, and there's a great future for it. So, I mean, what have been your impressions of the audiences, and have you had a chance to interact with people, and how do you see the future of performing for yourselves or for the industry here in China?
Yeah, okay.
Bigger tour next year. Right?
Yeah, I think it's been really pleasant. I mean, wow, like first of all, we do our shows in Chinese, so that is something. It is different actually because we're so used to kind of riffing in English and things like that. But we feel like the audience in China is very welcoming, and it was kind of a sense of relief when everyone kind of got in on the same jokes. So it was like really cool. And I also seeing this like just the cities, and like especially in Guangzhou and Shanghai. We haven't seen much of Beijing yet, but it's really beautiful. Like, and also the food is really good. Like really good.
And Meituan is, of course.
Yeah, there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've had bubble tea like 10
Yeah,
times
I think
already.
it's so convenient too, right? And the delivery's so cheap and everything's just
Yeah, everything is comes.
so good.
You know, when you order something, and in my mind, oh, it might take 1 hour, 2 hours. I'll go do Kung Pao chicken.
About chicken, yeah.
Yeah, like, but and it's like all of a sudden it's already here in 10 minutes. I was like, what?
And they have like these cabinets where they leave it in and you like scan a code.
Yeah,
All
that's
this-
so cool.
It's like the
They
future.
they deposit it in the box, right?
Yeah, they put it in a box. It's
yeah.
so crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't survive, I think, if I moved back to America and didn't have Wi-Fi.
Don't know how to cook anymore, right? Yeah.
No, but yeah, so far like it's been a really cool experience. I wish we had more time. Like it's obviously like on tour we have to be kind of compact, kind of a touring schedule and everything. And the days of concerts are like just focusing and practicing, getting ready for the show. But we definitely want to be. I definitely want to come back. So we definitely want to come back. So let's see more of the, everything here.
Sure, everyone else wants you to come back as well, as soon as possible. Yeah. So jumping around a little bit, keeping it a little bit on the academic side until we opened up for questions. And you'll get your chance, don't worry. I want to just hear a little bit more about what you think about the role for social media and classical music in general is. I mean, like, should every classical musician have a social media channel, right? Like, is that a must do to reach audiences, or how do you feel about that?
That's a great question. I think, I don't know if every classical musician needs to have social media. I think social media is just a way to communicate with people. At the end of the day, it is people to people, right? And it's just different. Back in the day, you wrote letters, and then they invented the telephone, and this internet, you can email, whatever way that you can build relationships with people. And social media is just, in today's day and age, one very powerful tool. But I definitely don't think it is the only way. And yeah, I don't know. I guess one good thing about social media is that in some ways it's made it more accessible for most people. Whereas back in the day, I can imagine, to get onto traditional media, there might be more like gatekeeping figures. They have to build relationships, and only through that, I hear stories. I don't know. I hear stories about like in the past, like, people can get their career blocked because distribution channels. Whereas today with social media, you can have a more one-to-one direct relationship with the audience directly. I think that's a really cool thing.
You can really manage the building of your own audience without an intermediary. So it's
Yeah, I mean, you could argue the social media platform is still an intermediary. So you are still, they do control a bit of the communication channel. But compared to traditional media, it does open up a lot more opportunities. Yeah.
Do you like performing more or doing videos more?
Ooh. Okay, I will say I love being on stage and playing. That feeling is just that adrenaline, and that in the moment, and the live audience being there, I think is really exhilarating. You can feel the kind of, even though it's like us performing, there's definitely a two-way kind of energy that happens, right? But I hate the traveling. But traveling just kills me, like going onto planes and like security and all that. So I don't know. Like I guess filming at home is like you're just in the comfort of your home. You can switch the camera, and if you say something wrong, you can like edit it out. So, unlike this live stream, I'm like nervous. I will say something wrong, but you know. So yeah, both have their pros and cons. Yeah. Which one do you like more?
Both.
Safe answer.
So diplomatic, so diplomatic. um, yeah, I think it's just really great to see what you guys have done to be, such a like a cultural bridge even. I mean, we say music is a cultural bridge already, right? But like being able to then bring it across to other generations, because it's just such a challenge. These composers have been dead for so long. The things they were talking about, nobody remembers, right? So I think I really appreciate, how you can make it relatable. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh,
That
thank
wasn't
you.
a question, sorry.
Thank you, thank you.
I think we want to open it up now to some audience questions. I'm sure you've all come with a lot of things to ask. Why don't we start with you? Can you put into yeah, okay.
So, like AI and VR has been a big thing these days. It's like ChatGPT and stuff. How do you guys see AI in transforming what you do? Like turning followers into live audience members?
I definitely feel like I'm in Yale right now.
Yeah.
I'm not used to that kind of
Intellectual
question. What was the last word? How do you see AI in something about followers? Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Maybe your next 5 minute concert will be like people will wear like the Apple Vision Pro
Interesting.
So like technology development,
Yeah,
AI,
yeah,
how will it affect what you do?
I think it's interesting. I mean, I love the excitement of innovation. I love that frontier and where people see the possibilities. I think a big part of what we always try to do within ourselves is to always question assumptions and try to think of new ways. It's funny you mentioned earlier about process, because yeah, there's a creative process, but part of being creative is also destroying that process and constantly rebirthing. Because like you said, technology makes the old rules, so you have to figure out what principles still apply and which rules no longer are relevant, right? I think at the same time with these things, there's often a lot of hype surrounding it. And it becomes one of those like the hype is about the hype rather than about the product itself. And so I think I'm personally very excited, and I'm gonna admit a little bit scared as well to see how things unfold. I don't know, but I think um yeah, right now it's a lot of it, it's hard to see. Like there's a lot of people can see what the future might look like, but a lot of it right now is still kind of just like ideas, if that makes sense, right? And yeah, it's like the internet.com boom as well. .com, yeah. Like so many, everyone just wanted to add .com behind to like make themselves feel like they're the future. But what are the actual in when the time passes, how's it really gonna integrate with our lives and make it for the better?
Yeah, I'll just add, I mean, a lot of people have asked us this, and literally the conversation happens like every time. And I don't know anything about AI, but I also know a lot of people also don't know anything about AI. So, right, like they say, oh, AI is this, AI is that. I was like, do you know what it is? They're like, yeah, it does this for you. I'm like, okay, but how does it do that? So I think because of that, it becomes what kind of just tapping on what you said, the hype just becomes the hype itself, right? And then the question is, what does it actually bring? Now, tying back to classical music, I don't know. I feel like we did explore AI with kind of writing pop music,
Have
and
you guys done? I'm sorry if I missed it, but have you done a video about it?
yeah, we kind of talked. We put some prompts in, and it was quite convincing. Like it's kind of already there. But for classical music, I think it's still got a long way to go. I can't explain it, right? There's still a lot of intricacies that
Well, yeah, I mean,
Like-
I don't know. Like we only explore certain AI and we don't know the training data it was on.
Yeah.
It's possible that a different AI that trains on classical music could compose classical music. We didn't try that one out, so we don't know. I think, yeah, I mean, even then though, it's like that would raise the question of what is music, right? Which is interesting. Um, I think that is something that a lot of creators and artists are kind of existentially grappling with. I think, thankfully, I've not yet heard any AI play violin really well, thankfully. But I don't know. Yeah, I think, but somehow, look, I don't want to say anything at that timestamp myself. Like, Eddie's made this prediction in 2024. But like, I mean, you see it like, well, like pop music, people are creating like fake songs with Drake's voice, and they sound pretty convincing. But doesn't mean Drake's out of a job right now, right? Like people still gravitate. I mean, I think ultimately, like I said, it's human connections, and we still gravitate to each other. But look, I don't know. I can't make an educated answer for you on that,
So
unfortunately.
the short answer is we don't know.
But wonderful question. Wonderful question. Back there in the white shirt. Yeah.
Oh, that's for you.
Yeah, I think I want to play Brahms Violin Concerto. So I've been learning it now, practicing it.
So get out there and hit the subscribe button.
Yes.
We'll have a question from over here. Yes.
First of all, excuse me. First of all, I want to say thank you so much. Why? Because I have an 8-year-old boy. He's been practicing violin for like 4 years. So when he first got started, parents, we have to be his company for this kind of torturing procedure, as you know. So I subscribe your channel. My son does not understand the content at all. He doesn't understand the Ling joke, but I can understand. I can relate to that. So thank you so much. So you make us as survivor for this kind of very fierce competition. So I have 2 questions. One is for my son. Second is for myself, for my own curiosity. The very first one I want to ask, you joke about Ling practice like every single day for a very long period of time. But what's your idea like practicing hours per day as a violin student? That's for my son, obviously. Second question for myself, I'm always very curious because I'm a very sensitive person. Like I read every single review from my students. I'm a law professor, by the way. So I teach international law. So I review every single student's comments from my students' feedback forms. So sometimes they wrote something really harsh. I sometimes read something really harsh about your reviews, your channels and your YouTube channels were Bilibili, and I think they're horrible, but how can you cope with all this kind of negative feedbacks? So that's my curiosity.
I just cry by myself with Brett. We just cry and drink bubble tea. No, actually, they're really great questions. Thank you for asking that. I think we can talk about the first one first. Just tips on ideal practicing hours. How old is your son? 8. I mean, do you have any guidelines about how much a yield should practice? Wow, congratulations.
We should be asking him. I think, what 8-year? I feel like it was a great teacher we talked to, and he said, for kids, it's not, we shouldn't, he said, we shouldn't really be focusing so much about technique. It's actually the most important thing is making it fun and also making them believe that they can do it. Because as soon as that stops, everything stops, right? They will stop everything. And so that was very interesting. So it's not, but as an adult, it's different. As an adult, it's like the process is everything, kind of like vibrato, bow, contact point. It's methodical because we've developed that. We need those guidelines. But as a kid, it's really to make it so they have that belief that they can do it. And the teacher really just gives them basic, they don't have to have perfect technique, but as long as they pick it up and keep going, eventually they'll come. And that's kind of, it was really good. I really liked it. I wasn't so focused about like playing the right notes and getting the right stroke right. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think I remember the teacher said too, interestingly, like if you apparently, I don't know if this is true, but apparently if you do like certain kind of violin training when you're young, just kind of simply by being exposed to music, kind of especially like ear training, not so much like reading. Like, I think the age groups like 4 to 6, like your chance of developing perfect pitch is apparently like 10x. I heard that. I don't know if it's true, but it's like this idea that when you're younger, you don't want to be too like rationally thinking about it. It's more just exposing into the world of music, letting music develop your ears very naturally. I'm not a pedagogue, so I can't give you the most like best answer. I would agree with Brett though. I think it's important to foster that emotional relationship with the instrument. And part of that also can be with like surrounding like a community. Like I know for myself personally, once I met other young people that were passionate and practiced, that naturally motivated me to practice more because I will see these other kids that practice so much and they're improving versus just having my mom always kind of tell me to practice more. I was like, oh, okay, mom. Yeah, and I think with time, it's tricky because I think in many ways, ideally, it's not about time, right? Like you want to, if your goal is to improve, then the more you can improve with less time, it's actually better. So the more quality practice. And so that introduces a lot of factors like finding the right teacher for you, maybe finding is it like an instrument issue, or there's a lot of different factors. But then I would also argue if it's about enjoyment, because practice is also about enjoyment, then you shouldn't be too worried about that. And you should just kind of spend time with the instrument. I don't think I can give you like 40 hours or 41 hours as a number, unfortunately. But I do think though, tying back to what Brett said, being able to dedicate yourself something in a craft and pushing through when things are difficult is a beautiful character trait to build.
Oh, wait, the
Second question.
Yeah. You want to?
I
I mean, I think
was the second.
so the second question, I actually want to expand it a little bit because I feel like it also touches on something that every student of music also faces, which is negativity about their performance, right? I mean, especially if you're, doing a very prominent social media channel, you'll be subject to a lot of negativity. But I think all of us, especially students, first performances or competitions or anything, I mean, you get maybe not necessarily personal negativity, but you have to deal with that attack in a way, or even if it's just you yourself, being self-critical. I feel like those are kind of.
I think that's a really good question. I think I definitely struggled a lot with that when I was younger as well. I get a lot of stage anxiety. I always get shaky, but and then I feel like I would be my own worst critic. Sometimes it was even to the point where people were like, hey, it was actually not that bad, but I was like, oh, I sounded so bad, I play so bad. So sometimes it comes from within as well. I don't know. I think there's so many different ways to think about this topic. I guess one way I do think about it is, I mean, let's say reading comments. I try to consider, I think I personally love to just see if something's true or not. So even if something's uncomfortable, I try to consider if it is true. And if it is, then I kind of think first, well, how can I take the beneficial things out of this criticism and improve and be better? But then I feel like it's tricky because humans aren't, as much as I like to think I'm very like logical and objective, we aren't really built to be unemotional robots either. And so sometimes when you take in criticism that might be true, but if the surrounding package of that criticism makes you feel so incapable and disempowered, you'll find that you actually aren't able to act on the things to improve yourself, right? It's like, okay, I know I need to do this to be better, but now I feel so bad about myself. I don't believe I can do that. And so I'm not going to take the actions to be a better person. And so I think it's an interesting duality in my head where I try to objectively decide, okay, what are the things that will make me improve? And I always take that seriously because I love trying to be better in everything I do. But then you kind of look at the emotional side and like, okay, now what do I need to feel and believe in order to do those things? Otherwise, I'm just gonna know it logically, but I'm never gonna have the strength and courage to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like being on stage. You know, we all know if you've done all your practice, it's fine. But when you're on stage, your emotions are in the way. You're like, "Wah," and your nerves kick in. So it's a bit of that kind of that factor. And tying out to reading comments, I like how you mentioned it's like a filter. It's like, well, in consideration of the environment and also in trying to understand the person commenting, how they got the information is very important because they might not have all the information. So again, trying to break it apart, it's like, let us not take it personally because they don't know. They're only making a decision based off what they have, right? And so that does help us kind of, okay, it's okay. We don't really know this person. They don't know the full picture. It's fine. It could be true or not. And then it's this whole filtering process. And then gets to Eddie's point. It's like, well, if it is true, then how does it help us become a better person? And that's something we try to do. Yeah. It's not easy. It's really
Oh,
not easy.
I would also say too, like it's easy to focus on the negative, but sometimes nice to read the positive comments too and remind yourself that there are the 90% of people that are really grateful and appreciate what you do. Because it's so easy to like just get caught up on like the vocal 2% and then forget that there are people. And sometimes it's just also like people come from different backgrounds, have different cultural expectations, and it's not the right fit. I don't think you necessarily have to or can even please 100% of the population. So sometimes it's about finding those people that really do appreciate what you have to offer and cherishing those rather than pleasing those that might just, even if you give your all, they won't appreciate you anyway, right? So yeah.
Nice.
Thank you. Great question. Other question from this side? How about back there in the blue?
Hi, I've been watching your channel for a couple of years already. I started watching it when I was in high school, and now I've graduated from undergrad. And then my question is, what is the one most unforgettable challenge you've overcome throughout the years you've running the channel?
These Yale questions.
Light questions, yeah.
Yeah.
Softballs.
Yeah. They really like to go deep here. The most challenging thing we've had since running this channel, is it? Okay, I think for me, it's definitely the transition from just being a musician and a violinist to learning all the skills and leadership and management and team building required to run TwoSet. Because we do have a team. It's impossible to do what we do with just the two of us. And so we have a quite small team, around 10 people. And I think, yeah, coming from a music background, I mean, I guess our exposure to teamwork was string quartet, chamber music. But even then, I'm sure you know the amount of drama that happens in a string quartet. But to go from there to like learning to work with people has been a huge and amazing learning curve. But it's been great. I think it's also been very challenging. I think we've grown a lot from it.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I mean, that's a very good one. For me, it's more like the most difficult thing is that there's so much to learn. The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. That's kind of the crazy part. And it's actually, yeah, it's like dealing with uncertainty is kind of a trait in itself that we've developed. Was we were thrown in a deep end, kind of just seeing how things go. And actually tying that to musicians, and so I do think a lot of musicians could take something from that. Like naturally, when we graduate, there's a lot of uncertainties. Are we going to get a job? Are we going to do all these things? But this is part of it, actually. It's normal. It's completely normal to feel that and sense that. And so that's always going to be there. It's something that we always go on with. Yeah. So dealing with uncertainty is something there. Yeah. Sorry.
I wanted to follow up on this question and your answers. I feel like, or do you think that education related to what you're doing now should be part of a musician's education? Maybe not necessarily building a social media channel, right? But getting over some of the things you've just described. Building a team, even if it's just for your concerts or things like that. Because I feel like, I don't know what your experiences were in conservatory, but I don't feel like conservatory taught that.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
That's an interesting thought experiment. I mean, you're the one at Yale. What do you think?
No, I just went to Yale. I'm not.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like teaching.
I mean, okay, let's not make
Okay.
it too big, right?
Okay, yeah.
Do you feel like it would have been easier if you would have learned those skills as part of your, education, or
I
could they be?
actually think I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but my instinct is
I think I know what you're gonna say.
No.
but yeah.
I think it's no, because by the time it's taught, then you've lost the ability to deal with uncertainty, right? So there's a kind of, like that pressure makes a diamond. There's this kind of thing that life teaches you a lesson when there are values that come to you and you kind of have to grow with it. If it's all spoon-fed to you, then naturally I feel like most people won't take it at its face value.
Like performing, you can't really learn unless you're on the stage.
Exactly.
You have
So
to do it.
it's like half the practice is actually on stage. It's not in the practice room. And I think it's related to that. So I feel like for me, I'm glad that I was thrown in kind of the deep end to learn these things, because I think I would have taken it for granted.
Yeah, can I add a few thoughts to that? I think first of all, I think if they tried to teach a lot of these ideas in university, it'll be too theoretical and too far removed from real life experience. So many times we have read a book and been like, this book sucks. This is boring. And then 3 years later, having walked through different experiences, I'm like, this book is gold, this knowledge. Oh my God, I can't believe it, So sometimes you need to have been in a certain situation for something to mean something to you, right? Like, yeah. And so I think a big part of that is taking part in these projects, these creative ventures, trying things. And then you apply and you seek the knowledge to get to where you want to go. Otherwise, it's just kind of you're memorizing theories for the sake of memorizing theories. I think the second thing, touching on to what Brett said, is I think a lot of knowledge is like abstractions or like mental models of reality. And the thing is, different models apply to different circumstances, right? Like what applied in this circumstance might not apply. It's like Newton's law of gravity applies 9.8 meters squares until you're on the moon, then it doesn't apply. Or like, theory. Anyway, I'm trying to sound like a Yale student, but you get my point. And so I'll give an example. Like, I remember in our uni, they tried to teach a little bit about social media because they had that initiative, which I think was really cool. Like kind of not just about music, but how to kind of surround this career of being a musician, what skills you might.
They did have that, yeah.
Yeah, they did have that.
Okay.
I think the issue, I mean, not the issue, but the challenge is even the rules of social media are changing so much, right? Like what works, I mean, TikTok didn't even exist 5 years ago. Oh, maybe it did, but you know what I mean? Like the landscape changes so much. What the algorithm is changes so much, what people want to see. And so a big part of that is we're constantly, and I think with technology, the interesting thing is, from my belief, I don't know, I wasn't alive 500 years ago, but I think the rules are, it's not just the rules are changing, but the rate in which rules are changing is faster and faster. And so we have to cultivate the ability to constantly readapt and relearn when the mental model we have in our head no longer matches reality, which is why it's important to cultivate the ability to face uncertainty, to be honest and be like, I'm scared. I don't know what the right decision is right now, but not run away from that. Not to just go like, I'm going to go back into this textbook that I read and try to force that ideology onto the world because the world is changing. Yeah.
Nice.
Very good. Yeah. Over here in the white there. In the middle. Yep. Yep. You. Yep.
The questions have been really deep. Yeah, I think you and the fans are real thinkers here. So before I go to my deep question, the question is editor son still in your basement?
Yes, but instead of using Uber, we use Meituan now to deliver the bubble tea.
Okay, great. Okay, so my question is, I've been following you since very early, and I think although your content has been really fun and interesting, there's still something quite serious underneath. I'm wondering, is that something still the same, or has it grown along with you two together? Sorry.
Can I clarify? When you say there's something serious, did you have something specific in mind? What do you mean by that?
Like, I think the spirit behind the funny, the comedy, the interesting, the goof around is still quite serious, even sacred, even. Like you want to advocate so much things, not just in classical music, but like how to really pursue what you really want. But after all these years, I'm wondering, because you two have absolutely grown, as we can see from your videos and your tour. I'm just wondering, has the serious topics, theme behind your videos grown together or expanded to an even more rich things?
Thank you for that. Also very deep question. I think, yeah, like it's funny because we never started off wanting to be funny. I always joked about this. It's not like if you asked us 10 years ago, I did not know we'd be doing comedy at all, right? Like it wasn't on my like list of what they say. It wasn't on my bingo card of predictions. I think it's interesting because yeah, on one hand, our personality has been we do like goofing around, and that is something that we share online. But it reminds me of this book I read once about comedy. It was actually written a book about like how to be a better comedian. And she said something that always stuck to me. She says, don't try to be funny first. Be authentic. And then through that authenticity, you can then make that funny. And I think a lot of great comedians, what they are able to do is they're able to, through comedy as a medium, share some truths that make us think and explore. And then so I think a lot of what we do is yeah, like the authentic messages that we believe in, or like values at least, that we try to share with the world to be authentic. And it's not easy, like something we strive for too. It's easy to fall off that line and try to do something because it's a trend, or try to do something for views and be funny. But we try to constantly remind ourselves of like, what is it that we truly believe in, that what we want to share. And I think ultimately it's that authenticity that creates that relatability, creates that community of people that go, these are my authentic shared experiences. This is what I truly believe in.
And actually, yeah, I add on to that on the topic of values. These values are a way for us to guide into uncertainty. So when, rather than what Eddie said, you know, trying to force something on, these things that we learned along the way, they kind of help us get through these situations. So it's like, I don't know what's going on, but at least I know what we feel authentically. These are our values, and I'm going to go by this kind of moral compass, so to speak. And it does give you kind of a easy, you know, feeling inside. Okay, at least I can trust in myself to make it happen. I don't know how, but there's a kind of will inside, and that keeps you going. Yeah, and to the, you know, all those the you know, reading comments and things like that. Well, it all ties together, actually. Yeah, it's like a guiding light, and we just go and see what happens.
Another very deep question. We have time for one more question. You got your hand up early. Yeah, go ahead. One last question, then we have to wrap.
I want to say, thank you so much. As a comedian myself, I really thank for your answers for the previous one. And then I want to have a bigger appreciation for you, because being like starting a channel for 10 years and you have brought everything here, it's already like a very heroic action. And you guys are like hero in the classic music in my heart. So really thank you. But my question is very delayed. So now since you have a tour in China, and you also have a very very large fan basement here, and fan space here, and and as you know, we all have some Chinese nickname for you, and Eddie. Eddie is called like tangerine in our Chinese language, because the tangerine and orange is called Cheng. So it sounds like your family name. And Brett, you're called the cute little ship because because of the family name Yang. And I just want to ask, what do you think of these nicknames? And do you would you like us to continue using it, or ever since you have toured here in China and you learned some of the Chinese, would you like to bring each other some nicknames in Chinese or other things? Yeah, new nicknames.
I don't know how to answer that. Yeah, we've heard like Chen,
Cheng,
Cheng,
Cheng.
Cheng.
We
Yeah,
know, yeah.
yeah. It's a Chen,
Cheng Yang.
Yang.
I love it. Personally, I think it's so cute. Yeah, the orange. We sometimes get fan gifts. One of the more memorable ones was a cute little sheep, but enclosed in the orange. So you open the orange, and
I
the sheep
remember.
comes out. And that's really cute to us. I love it. I think it's really creative, and yeah, it makes you feel some type of way about my Chinese name. I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. Yeah, honestly, it's kind of like when we came, it feels really welcoming here. Like we really loved being here, actually. Like I said, I wish we had more time, and we definitely want to be back. It's just there's just so much to explore. We meet so many great people. Like we love meeting all of you here, like doing these events today as well. It gives us also an opportunity to kind of connect with all of you as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, TwoSet Violin. Brett, Eddie, thank you very much. 双琴侠, everybody. Thank you.